All right, it is episode 2 of We've Got Your Number. The project is to look at games with numbers in their title, compare them, and select the best game for each number. And we're on episode 2. And Jay, this is an incredible episode because we basically have almost every sequel in the history of gaming to go through tonight.
Does that actually count, or like if it says title name and then two, or does it have to have the number two within the game title? Is there any rules, or are we just going
Well,
crazy
so
with
the
number two?
so I think the rule said it has to have the number 2 or a 2 spelled out, and it
Okay.
can be like titles from different, or the number 2 in other languages, like
Okay.
Herzog Zwei and something like that. And when we were kind of like last time saying, oh, if the game was called like 2, like Street Fighter Alpha 2
Hmm.
or Street Fighter Zero, included that in Zero.
Yeah.
So um, that was the basic parameter.
I think
So
I think I have one for number two. Very easy, and it's a PS1 game. Do you remember Two Extreme?
I have never played that. So
I
you got to
when
tell me about Two Extreme.
so Two Extreme is one. I wonder if it's on the list, but it's actually spelled out the number two and then X and then stream in letters. And it's basically it's think of Road Rash, but with skateboards, rollerblades, BMX bikes. It's during that age of the X games. And this game was
Okay.
on it was on the PlayStation 1, and I remember I still have my copy to this day when it came out. Um, it's just Road Rash, but you know, digitized, and it has a rollerblader punching a guy on a BMX bike, and you're racing down streets. That's all it is, and it's a great game. It's fun.
Now that is a very provocative pick because as we kind of look through this list, that is a game that would never come to mind when you consider the heavy hitters we have on there.
Yeah.
So what is it? And like there's some that I found that I could really make an argument for this game, even though people would be like, you're absolutely crazy. So what is the argument? What is the hook here that this is the best game with number 2 in it?
Too extreme? Oh no, I'm not saying it's the best. I
Oh,
don't
oh,
think it's
okay.
the
This is just
absolute
one.
best. I'm just putting it out there because I know a lot of people forget that that game exists. But
Okay.
is it the best? Absolutely not. No.
Oh, okay. I thought you were throwing it out there like I've got the game.
No.
Because
It's not the
because
best.
last time we started, like when we did episode 0, we were like F-Zero, of course, right at the
Yeah.
beginning. And then we kind of worked through and oh yeah, it was F-Zero. Okay, so Two Extreme, good game, forgotten game. Um, so what I thought I would do is I'm going to, and this is also this might really irritate some people. I'm going to eliminate a couple games right off the bat because there's so many,
Okay.
and see if you agree with me
Hmm.
on this. The first two I'm just going to eliminate is Super Mario Brothers 2 and Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link. And I say that because I remember back in the day, these games were so different from the original Super Mario and the original Legend of Zelda that while they were good, I think a lot of people I remember were kind of let down because they weren't exactly the formula that made the previous games great.
Yeah, I would agree. I remember growing up, and me and my cousins, when we actually had a copy of Zelda 2, and I thought it was very lackluster when I played it, even as a kid. Um, I didn't care for it, but then again, I'm probably super biased when it comes to Zelda because I'm not a Zelda fan. I wasn't really big on Zelda. When it came to Super Mario, I'm probably one of the select few that actually enjoys Mario 2. But I I wouldn't say it's one of the best. So
Yeah,
eliminating those, yeah, I agree.
yeah, I enjoyed Mario 2 and Zelda 2 I never really got into, but I just feel like and then when you consider what came after,
Mhm.
it's hard to argue that these were the best. So, all right, so we agree with that. I'm gonna throw 4 out. Gran Turismo 2, The Witcher 2, Tekken 2, and Virtua Tennis 2. again, for the reason that what followed those games were
Mm,
so much better within those series. So I don't think you could say that they're the best sequels of all time.
yeah. Uh, that's another. Wow, we're gonna make some people upset because those are some of them are heavy hitters, but yeah, but I also feel like they've had so many sequels that it's really hard to pick, one of them that has the number two in it. So I would agree with that one as well.
Yeah, I mean, maybe The Witcher, there's probably some people who would argue that The Witcher 2 was like closer to a true strategy game and The Witcher 3 got into more like traditional open world stuff.
Hmm.
But I still don't think it could be, the best.
Yeah.
Um so now I have a long list of games that I have either played, but not that much, or I don't know enough about, but that a lot of people think could be the best. And I want to know if you've played some of these and what you think.
Yeah.
So the first one would be Diablo 2 or the
Oh,
Diablo 2 Lords of Destruction.
yeah.
I've never played that, but when I was researching this, it was like a lot of people were saying that these
Oh,
were
yeah.
absolutely amazing.
Diablo 2 is fantastic. I actually still have my battle chest with all of the installed discs and all of the strategy guides and booklets and manuals that come in like this newspaper, black and white, grainy, just you can still smell the glue on it. I still have that thing, and I've spent countless hours on Diablo 2 back in what was that, 2002? Was it 2003?
It was around that time, yeah.
Yeah, I think Diablo 2 is awesome, but is it the best? I mean, not it's weird. I spent I wouldn't say years. Well, no, I did. I played that game years and played it a bunch of times, but I wouldn't put it like in my top 10 of like best number two sequels of all time. That's
Okay.
just me though.
Yeah, Diablo is one of those series I've never played. I seem to remember like it was Diablo and StarCraft, and I
Mm-hmm.
always kind of like the
StarCraft.
StarCraft
Yeah.
aesthetic, so that's, what I played, and then just over the years I never got into it.
It's
Um
weird. It's weird. I think a lot of people would very probably disagree with me, but I would much rather play. Even though I enjoy Diablo 2, I would much rather play Langrisser 2 than Diablo 2.
well, so probably I would as well. Langrisser, the classic strategy RPG series, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean I think those PC point and click RPGs, or I don't know, I guess they're not point and click, but the mouse spaced combat, like they have
Mhm.
their place. But yeah, so I'll agree with you on there. Like I haven't played it, but I'll take your word for it. Now, since we have so many, I'm going to give you these in blocks of 3
Okay.
and see what you think. So we've got Baldur's Gate 2, Red Dead Redemption 2, and Assassin's Creed 2.
Mm. Why why'd you have to block them like this? I'm gonna
Uh
go Baldur's Gate.
Baldur's Gate would be the best of those.
I no. If I was being really honest with myself, although I love Baldur's Gate, I really have to agree. I didn't care too much for Red Dead Redemption, but I did like Assassin's Creed 2 when I played it. I think that's the one with Ezio,
Yeah,
right?
that was
That
yes,
one,
I
yeah,
think so.
that one was compelling enough to the point where I enjoyed myself. Um, the niche gamer in me wants to pick Baldur's Gate, but I did have fun with Assassin's Creed, so I'll pick Assassin's Creed here.
All right.
Unfortunately.
All right, so we'll keep that in the running.
Mm.
I haven't I mean, I did play Assassin's Creed 2, but it's funny, they all kind of blend together, the Assassin's Creed games. I'm like, "Wait, is
Hey,
that the France one, or is that Acre one where you're a crusader or fighting the crusaders?"
I'm trying to look at it from a perspective as if I didn't play anything after two. Like two was was the next one that I went into, and I'm not thinking about the other ones. So I'm like, I did enjoy that game. I'll go with Assassin's Creed, even though I want to go Baldur's Gate.
All right, all right. Next group of 3, Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty, Silent Hill 2, and The Last of Us Part 2.
That is so easy. That's easy. I'm picking Silent Hill.
Okay, I've never played a Silent Hill game, so I'm really outing myself as somebody who maybe doesn't have the breadth of knowledge that I thought.
Have you played Metal Gear?
Oh yeah, I've played Metal Gear. I didn't like to, quite honestly. I preferred uh, the Metal Gear Solid 3,
I'm the oh,
3
I
and
think I'm the only
4.
person on this planet that does not like 3. I don't care for 3 very much, but I know a lot of people like it, and I did beat it. But if I had to go back and play any Metal Gear, I would much rather play Twin Snakes than play Metal Gear 3 again.
Really? Really?
Yeah,
I see, I had the totally opposite thing, and I played it. I remember it had this thing where it encouraged you to play it with headphones.
hmm
And the sound design where you could kind of like you had that reconnaissance tool where you could, pick up voices from the
hmm
brush, and you really had to listen to the intricacies of the environment. I love that. I thought it was this great sense of isolation, desperation,
yeah.
and I kind of like the infiltrating the Soviet Union theme. So,
I
but
think
yeah,
I think the thing when I was playing it, one of the things that really frustrated me when I was playing 3, I probably should go back and play it again. But I think I remember saying to myself as a teenager, I was like, man, I really wish they would make it easier, like a click of a button to change a camo. Because to like pause the window and then go into this other screen and then like 3 other screens and then pick your camouflage, then exit those 3 other screens was kind of annoying. But I
that's
mean,
true.
but that's the only thing about that game that annoyed me. Other than that, the game is fine. But I have this thing for close quarters combat. So I like being like I like the beginning of 2, but I don't like the rest of the game. Like when you're on the boat, like I like
Mm,
that stuff. Where you're tight corridors and all that stuff. That stuff is cool. Later on, yes, I agree. The game number 2 does not it doesn't fit really well. And I have this thing about like I guess pseudo open worlds. Like I just don't enjoy them as much. And Metal Gear 3 kind of feels like a pseudo open world, but
okay.
disguised as a linear kind of espionage game. It's not bad. It's just that I didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed, Twin Snakes or Metal Gear, the beginning of Metal Gear 2.
Okay.
But that's
Interesting.
not.
But what about Silent Hill 2? What makes that the
So with Silent Hill 2, I will be completely honest. I never beat Silent Hill 2, but I remember playing the game, and when you play the game, there's just this wonder that I get of just running around Silent Hill, and I just feel like I'm chipping away at the town. Like you always feel like you're running down the street that you couldn't go down before, and then later on you find a key, and it unlocks a door that makes you go around a hole that or a chasm that you couldn't walk past before. Like I just like that kind of stuff, and it was very eerie. It's very dark, and it got me to quit playing. It's just those. I still have the game, and I still haven't finished it. I should
Yeah.
probably I should probably put that on my bucket list.
Now was it a zombie game, or was it just like a horror haunting sort of game?
Yeah, it's kind of like a. I mean, it has creatures in it per se, but Silent Hill isn't it's not a zombie game. It's more like a psychological horror. Like
Okay.
it's kind of mind trippy, but it's visual fidelity and like atmosphere is what really reels you into the game.
All right. So we'll keep that in the running. Um Next up we've got Psychonauts 2, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, and Quake 2. And
Ooh,
these were highly rated.
oh
I
wow.
played Psychonauts 2. That's very recent. I think it came out in
Yeah.
2021 or 2022, something like that. And I didn't play much of it. Like it was one of those games where I was like, "Oh, this is interesting," and then life just
Yeah.
dominated my time, and I never got back to it. It's been a long time since I've played Quake 2, but I remember it being kind of a like a big deal in those early shooter days.
hmm
And I know nothing about Tony Hawk Pro Skater, but
I
a
played
lot of
all three
people
of them.
online. Okay.
I've
So
played all three of them.
give me some perspective on this grouping.
Okay, so let's start from the beginning. What was it? Not Tony Hawk. What was the first one?
Psychonauts 2, then Tony
Psychonauts.
Hawk, then Quake.
Psychonauts I never played. No, wait. I said I played all three of them. I only played two of the three. I'm sorry. I never played Psychonauts 2, but I played Psychonauts 1. And from what I've seen on Psychonauts 2, it looks fine. It looks good, but I haven't played it, so I can't really say much. But I've heard nothing but good things. When it comes to Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, I've probably spent most of my, I guess, my middle school, was that early high school days, just playing that game on two different consoles. I had it on Dreamcast and I had it on PlayStation 2, I want to say. And that was, again, that's another game that was during that X Games era. And I was heavy into that stuff at the time. So I had a lot of fun with that game. But with the last title, which was
Quake 2.
Quake 2. Quake 2 is just good. Like um I love Quake 2. I played it on PC. I had it on PS1, which was the dumbed down version, but I almost got close to finishing it one summer, and I love that game. It's weird though. I tried to play it recently on PC, and I was just like, man, I I, I don't remember it being like this at all. I thought it was better than this, but I sat back and I just kind of like just kept playing it, and I noticed like 2 hours went by. I was like, oh, okay, it is as fun as I remember. So, um, this one's kind of weird because this bracket, because two of the games I feel like I don't feel like they're the best, but I just feel like they're just fun games.
I
So,
feel like the nostalgic pick's got to be then Tony Hawk for you.
mm, it's weird because yeah, probably Tony Hawk,
I mean,
but I don't.
if you played that like on two consoles, it was part of your childhood.
Yeah.
There's got to be something to it.
That's the thing. It's more of a nostalgia thing. It's not really like this is the best thing. It's a nostalgia thing. Yeah, so I'll go Tony Hawk. I'll go with that one.
All right.
How
Yeah, no,
about
I
you?
mean, I think
You're gonna go what? Psychonauts?
well, like I said, these I'm reading you a category like some a bracket, if you will, of games that I've read about or I've played a little bit, and I know a lot of people love them, but I wouldn't pick necessarily any of these as the best.
Mm,
Like
yeah,
I don't have, but I feel like to be fair to the fans of these games, like they have to be considered.
yeah.
So the next grouping, we've got Fallout 2, Team Fortress 2, and Dark Souls 2. And Dark Souls 2, I know a lot of people love Dark Souls, and I think I don't know if this was the one that was released on the second one on the PS3, but
Yeah.
Dark Souls just never connected with me. And I didn't care for these games. I know they were super difficult, but they were also games from that era of kind of like the gray brown sort of blah PlayStation 3 games.
Well,
So,
yeah. Dark Souls, yeah, for sure. Dark Souls 2 was the was not made by what's his face. Was it Miyazaki or whatever his name is? It wasn't made by him. It was overseen by someone else because he was working on Bloodborne at the time. That's why Dark Souls 2 doesn't play as good. Um,
okay.
when it comes to that game, I wouldn't pick Dark Souls 2 at all. Um, the other one was Team Fortress 2. Team Fortress 2 was fine. I didn't spend a lot of time on it. When it started out as that mod, it was that I remember friends playing the game. I didn't care for it very much, but I know a lot of my friends did. I did try it out when it got its own identity, and it kind of looked like a Pixar cartoon. I thought it was fine. I'm not really into the competitive shooter much, so uh, it's okay. What was the last one?
Fallout 2?
I never played it.
Yep, I never played it. I got into Fallout,
Wait, no,
around.
Fallout 2 was the strategy one.
Yeah, that was
Oh,
yeah.
I played it, but I didn't, play it. I tried it out, I would say. I downloaded it once and I was like, "Oh, it's okay." And then I never played it again. So this is a no
Yeah,
contest block for me.
Yeah, I mean, I would go with Team Fortress 2 only because, well, it's the one I've spent the most time with. I got it, or I first played it on the Orange Box,
Hmm.
and then when I discovered this new thing called Steam, I downloaded it on Steam, and I'm not a competitive shooter guy either, but kind of like looking back, I feel like that game might have been kind of the type of like the ancestor of something like Fortnite.
Yeah.
Like you could probably trace it back. 'Cause I think they had a zombie shooting game too from Valve that was like
Oh
Left
yeah.
4 Dead.
Left 4 Dead. Left 4 Dead was the zombie shooter, I think,
Yeah,
right?
Left 4 Dead, and then of course they had CS:GO, and so it was around that time when this competitive online shooting community I think was born. I mean, there might be something earlier than that. Uh,
I think
you
it was
know,
more born during the age of Unreal Tournament.
yeah, that was another one that popped into my mind with
Yeah.
the Unreal Tournament.
Unreal Tournament, Quake 3 Arena, those around those days. That's when competitive shooters came up. Well, they called them Twitch shooters at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so I
was
mean, well, are you comfortable giving it to Team Fortress and just because the other
uh
two were
yeah, I'll give it to Team Fortress.
all
I'll give
right.
it to Team Fortress.
So then we have Beautiful Joe 2,
That's
Doom
a good one.
2, and Klonoa 2.
Oh no. This is that now this is a good one. Doom 2, Klonoa 2, and
The
uh
Beautiful Joe 2.
Beautiful Joe. I prefer Beautiful One over 2. So if I had to pick, and Klonoa 2, I haven't gotten around to playing yet because I do have the Klonoa, what is it? The mashup that they have where it's 1 and 2 on the Switch. I do
Yes,
I, I,
yes.
I do have that. I played Klonoa 1 and I think it's fantastic. I can see why it's $100 for that game on PS1 because it's fun. But it does copy another game on the PS1, which is weird that um a lot of people forgot. Um well, it doesn't copy in terms of combat, in terms of how it moves around and uses 3D, but it's a 2D space. There is a game on PS1 called Pandemonium that does that
Yes.
exact same thing. And a lot of people forgot about that game. But when I was playing it on the Switch, I was like, oh, it's just Pandemonium, but colorful and cool, you know? But I didn't play Klonoa 2 yet. But Doom 2, I've spent extensive time with. Doom 2 and TNT and all that stuff. Yeah, Doom 2, I'm giving it to Doom 2 because I like Doom. I'm a Doom guy. I am a Doom player. I like playing Doom. I recently beat Doom 64, which was great.
Wow. Yeah, I played all the Doom games back in the day, but again, it's one of those things that I have very clear memories of the first one, and
Mhm.
I'm not sure where the second like I can't envision the second.
Doom 2 is the one that basically drops you in the middle of a jungle and then just obliterates you with every enemy in the game. That
Okay, all right.
that's all it does. It just brutalizes you. It's just hard. There's even if I remember, oh no, I'm thinking of Final Doom. That's what I'm thinking about. But Doom 2 is the one where it's like hell on earth or whatever. But that one's tough too. Still tough. I love Doom 2. I'm going Doom.
Yeah. All right.
If I
Doom
played Klonoa 2, I would pick Klonoa 2, but I only played Klonoa 1 so far.
Yeah, yeah, same here. I have that compilation and I've only ever played one.
Hmm.
The next one, this is an interesting one because we've got Panzer Dragoon 2 Zwei, so
Hmm.
two twice in the title there. Grandia 2 and God of War 2.
I gotta go Grandia. Okay, see, this is a pattern with me. I'm picking all the RPGs because I don't play a lot of mainstream titles, but I did play God of War 2. I thought God of War 2 was good. I did think it was high action, but I have more nostalgic memories of Grandia 2 on the Dreamcast. So I have to go Grandia 2. I'm not even, what was the other one again? I forgot.
Panzer Dragoon 2.
Never played it.
Yeah,
Never played it.
is that the one that's like super expensive, or is that a different
No,
like?
no, Panzer Dragoon, Orta. I think no, it's not Orta. Orta is not the expensive. Saga is the expensive one.
Okay, yes,
Panzer Dragoon
yes.
Saga is the expensive one, but I've only played Panzer Dragoon one, which I got on the Switch. If I didn't get it on the Switch, I probably would have never played the game, and I thought it was great. I beat that game twice. That was fantastic. Uh,
Interesting.
but yeah, I have to give it to Grandia too, just because it has a cool battle system, and I love its OST. So
Yeah,
I gotta go with the RPG.
I would agree with that. I thought the Grandia series was just pleasant, fun, and certainly on the Dreamcast.
Hmm.
I don't know. It felt satisfying, like to see. Oh, this is where JRPGs are headed.
Yeah.
Even though I actually kind of like Grandia, the original Grandia,
Well, that game
as
is tough.
well.
That game
Yeah,
is.
but yeah, I'm definitely going Grandia too in that bracket. So next bracket we have Sonic Adventure 2, Castlevania 2, Belmont's Revenge, and the Knights of the Old Republic 2.
Oh. Hmm.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, this one's hard because I've played them all. They're all good. Um, so I have some gripes with Sonic Adventure 2. And it's mostly just the I wasn't I remember even when I was a kid, I always found it frustrating. Um, to like some of the characters were just harder to play. Um,
Okay.
and some of their levels just turned out to be more frustrating than others. And I think there's a character in there. I think she's like a bat or something like that. She's like a cat bat or something. I don't know, but or was it Knuckles? I don't remember. It's one of those characters that had very hard levels, and it's annoying. Um, but when it comes to man, I'm probably gonna go Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree only
Yep.
because
Like
I feel like that's the best game of the three.
yeah, Knights of the Old Republic. I'm sorry, that game is so good.
I mean,
And I'm not.
I spent more time with one. I did not get that far into two, but you could sort of tell the quality, and I know a lot of people said this is, just an epic BioWare game.
Yeah, you know what's weird is I'm. We're probably gonna lose some more listeners here. I am not a Star Wars guy. I don't watch the films. I don't read the books. I don't follow the lore. But when I played that game, Knights of the Republic, Old Republic 1 and 2, great stuff. Great stuff.
Yeah, I'm in that category. I'm not a big Star Wars guy. I was always more of a Star Trek person.
Hmm.
But I felt like these games open the worlds of Star Wars, in a way that probably no other game had up to that point.
Mm.
So I would go with that. Next grouping, we have Yakuza 2 or Yakuza Kiwami 2, which, there's kind of the same game, just an
Hmm.
update with Kiwami, Fantasy Star 2, and StarCraft 2.
This is easy. Um, I never played Yakuza and I never played StarCraft. But I'm trying to think. Did I play? I don't. I don't think I played any one of these games. Actually, Fantasy Star 2. No, it's Fantasy Star 4 is the one I played because my friend always tells me to play that. And that's the closest thing that I can say I've played. Everything else I have not played. I've only seen in action. So I'm out on this one. This is all on you.
Well, it's interesting. You know that I would go with Yakuza all the
Of
time.
of course, I expect you
And
to.
Yakuza 2, like the original Yakuza 2 was um it like on the PlayStation 2, it was okay. I got into the series with 3,
Hmm.
which is kind of like using the modern engine. So when you go back to the old PlayStation 2 engine, it's very much a different game, even though it has an excellent and story. So Kiwami 2 is the way I would go with that one, but I can't in all I can't with a good conscience tell people, "Oh, this is, one of the best sequels ever." It's really not. Phantasy Star 2, I'm kind of blanking on. I know that I've played it at some point, but it's not the third one. Like, everyone hates the third one, when I remember the third one, and it's, obviously the Master System original is a classic.
Hmm.
So, I don't know what to say about it, but it didn't stick with me. So
Mm.
I'd actually go with StarCraft 2. I know it's a more modern game, but I felt like it did justice to what StarCraft was back in the day. And I know it became kind of like a competitive game, and so I never played the competitive mode. I just did sort of it had a story mode, and it had, you could just kind of like set up your own battles. So
Hmm.
I thought it was very competent for what it was.
Well, I did not expect to hear you say StarCraft 2.
I feel like, to be fair, like, StarCraft 2 has had a bigger impact
Mm.
globally. I mean, I think that's the one that's like a national sport in South Korea.
Yeah. Yeah, it
So
is.
as much as if you put the two in front of me, I would play Yakuza all day.
Mm.
But if we're thinking about people listening and they want a recommendation, I would have to say, well, if you haven't tried StarCraft 2 of these three, this is the one you should play. And then our last grouping, we have Lunar 2, Kirby's Dream Land 2, and Power Stone 2.
Lunar 2, Kirby's Dream Land 2, or Power Stone. I'm picking Power Stone.
Really?
I'm only
Interesting.
I'm only picking Power Stone because I never played the other two. Um, and I I've never played Lunar, and I've always wanted to, but um, I remember at the time, Lunar didn't catch my eye at the time only because there was another game that came out that caught my eye at the same time, and it was Star Ocean second story. It was a second story or something like that. That was the one that caught my eye at the time when I saw Lunar. So I never got. Even to this day, I still have never played a Lunar game. The thing with Kirby is I've never was pretty much a Kirby fan growing up, and I've only played one, and it was Dreamland on the Game Boy. That was the only Kirby game I ever played at the time. Which is why my pick is with the what's it called?
Power Stone?
Power Stone. Thank you. When it comes to Power Stone, when I first got my Dreamcast, uh, I had Jet Grind Radio. I had a game called Max Steel, and Spawn, and I had Power Stone 2. And Power Stone 2 took up most of our times because you can play 4 players with your friends, and it's such a great game. It's so much fun.
Wow, this is interesting. Talk about losing viewers. I'm going to lose viewers with this one. I hated Power Stone.
Oh, did
It,
you really? Wait, Power Stone
I
1 or 2? Because they both,
both
to me, they both.
both of them.
Oh, no.
Both of them. I do not like those like competitive Smash Brothers type games where it's frenetic and you're all over the screen. Like,
Right.
I just never thought that's not what I wanted in a fighting game. So it's funny, and this is one of the things I kick myself for when I started like getting serious with retro collecting maybe 10 years ago, like, and I was consciously looking for things.
Hmm.
I was at a game store. It was called J Street Games in the King of Prussia Mall.
Okay.
And I bought Power Stone and Power Stone 2, I think for maybe like $50.
Okay.
Like, two games, $50. I thought it was pretty reasonable. And now they are way more than $50. But because
Yeah.
I hated them, I was like, I'm just gonna sell these. So like maybe
Yeah, I know you're kicking yourself.
yeah. Uh, and I got a decent profit for the time. Like, maybe it was, I don't know, 2015, 2016. I'm like, oh, I'm not playing them. They went up in value, but ugh.
That bad,
kicking
huh?
myself. Yeah, but I'd go with Lunar because Lunar, you really should play, especially, start with the first one. I mean, it comes off as kind of basic RPG these days, but for its time, if you set yourself in the time that these games came out,
Hmm.
are incredibly whimsical. They have a very streamlined battle system, and they're one of the games like we talked about it with Ease Books 1 and 2, where you put it in and you just get like a really good feeling.
Yeah,
Lunar
yeah.
is one of those games, absolutely.
Okay, I definitely need to try it then, because I have,
Yeah,
because even the PlayStation One's box set is iconic to like PlayStation One collecting, and it's weird because I think PlayStation One is the primary console I was collecting for when I got back into collecting back in 2007. And I remember that was one box set that I was looking for actively, and I could never find it. It never hit any of my shops, my local areas at all. And it's weird because I came across other, working design games that's not that one. Like I came across Elemental Gearbolt. I bought that as soon as I saw it. I came across Silhouette Mirage. I bought it. All those other working design games I picked up it, but Lunar never see.
yeah, I have the Lunar 2 box set.
Yeah.
I'm kicking myself that I don't have the Lunar 1, and I played Lunar on, the Sega CD. Back in the day, I remember renting it, or I might have actually owned it because I did play it quite a bit, and I don't think I would have rented it multiple times, so ooh, another one where I'm kicking myself that I don't have that one. But I don't know what would be the best way to play it. I actually kinda like the PSP remake that they did of it.
I
Um,
didn't even know it had a PSP remake.
yeah, there's a PSP remake, and I did a YouTube video about it. I was so excited. I had such a great time with it, and it was one of my most downvoted videos ever. And
Oh,
because I was
why?
just talking about how much I love this version of Lunar, like it was so good. I like the updated like anime style graphics. I like the cutscenes. The music was redone. I mean, it was still the classic music, but it just was crisper, and they had, I guess, re-recorded it, and everyone hated me for that video. So there must be something in it that makes it inferior to the PlayStation 1, perhaps, but
I have to find this.
yeah,
Wow.
I loved it. It was one of my favorite PSP experiences to go back and play an updated version of Lunar.
It's hard to imagine any of your videos getting downvoted
Oh, I've
because
had a
you
couple.
because you seem to have a very, balanced bias on, good and bad, So I
My
find that hard.
my top
Mhm.
3 downvoted videos were that one. I reviewed a pair of JBL floor standing speakers 10 years ago or something, and people hated
Wow.
that for some reason. And I smack talked the new Fire Pro game,
Wow.
Fire Pro Wrestling World, back when it came out, because it had some problems when it came out. Um, but I still stand by the fact that it was a missed opportunity. But the Fire Pro community got after me, so
Man, that's
whatever.
unfortunate. That's
Yeah.
unfortunate.
Now we're gonna end this block of games with one like we started with Diablo 2,
Hmm.
which, a lot of people said, "Oh, this is like one of the most highly rated games with 2 in the title." We'll end with a similar situation, Super Mario Galaxy 2.
Okay.
Now, this one I played, and
I
I
played it
think they
too.
were very creative games.
Hmm.
But nothing about either Galaxy 1 or Galaxy 2 strikes me as being one of the best games of all time with 2 in the title.
Super Mario Galaxy 2?
Yes. That was the Wii, with you're on
Yeah,
the
no,
planet
I know
and yeah.
exactly what it is. I'm just that is I would agree if if I didn't play a game that I'm gonna say I think is the best game with two in the title. And
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Time Splitters too.
Time Splitters 2. Alright, I'm gonna put this in our strong consideration.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Time
I
Splitters.
have never played Time Splitters 2.
Oh, Time Splitters 2 is fantastic. It's
Wow.
a Super Mario Galaxy 2 is great too. I have that game. I love playing Super Mario Galaxy 2. But I can honestly say that like um I never got around to finishing it. And I
Same
probably
here.
should. I probably should. But Time Splitters 2 is one of those games that feels like um it's akin to, I would say, GoldenEye or, Perfect Dark. It's just done very well. I think it's actually done better, in my opinion. Um, but it also has like different ways to complete objectives. I can't explain it. It's really hard to explain, but man, that game was so good. It even has a map creator for when you want to run around with your friends and do crazy things. It's so good. One day, just play Time Splitters 2 on the PlayStation 2.
All right. Well, you know what? I may do that now. Told you I got the retro Tink, and
Uh-huh.
I picked up a Japanese PS2, the nice silver one, and I'm looking for some games to play.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna look for that. My pick, if I had to, and I think there are a lot of games that you could put in this category, but the one that came to mind as soon as I heard we were doing this episode and I was thinking of games with number two, it's actually Mega Man 2.
Oh, that's a good one. Why
Yeah.
didn't I think of that?
And I'm somebody like I don't really like I like Mega Man to a degree, but I'm not like a hardcore fan. But I felt like Mega Man 2 was a perfect evolution of what the first game was.
Yeah.
And it was so satisfying relative to everything else that even came out in that series on the NES. And then obviously you have like the Mega Man X, which was its own like new refresh and exciting in its own right. But yeah, I think Mega Man 2 just struck me back then, and when I went back and played it, maybe about I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago on one of the compilations, this is a great, great game.
Yeah,
It's
Mega
just
Man
an
2.
amazing sequel.
Yeah. Mega Man 2 is I'm not a Mega Man guy, but Mega Man 2 is the only Mega Man I've ever beaten, and it's the only Mega Man that I actually enjoyed playing, and I think it has something to do with just it's a bit more playable than the Japanese version of the game. It's a bit easier. I mean, we all know that. But yeah, man, Mega Man 2 is a good pick. Ah, I wish I would have picked that one.
Yeah. So now I think in fairness you have to consider Street Fighter 2 because
Yeah, it's a classic.
s- it's a classic. It launched and I know this is a little controversial, but it launched the genre,
Yes, it did.
I think, of
Yes,
modern fighting games.
correct. Yep,
So,
100%.
yeah, now is it the best Street Fighter? No. And I think that's the reason why I would not pick it, but I think it's so influential and it's one of those games that you can go back like I can feel what it feels like playing that arcade cabinet right now.
Mm,
And I think that's a powerful statement that, a game that has become such an elemental almost part of your if you grew up in the 90s, like Street Fighter was everywhere and you learned how to play it. So I mean it's a strong contender.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's also a significant improvement over the original Street Fighter.
yeah. We like to pretend that the original Street Fighter doesn't exist a lot of the times.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue it's the greatest jump from 1 to 2 in
Yeah, it
gaming that I
is.
can think of.
Yeah, it really is when you really look at it. Um, Compared to where it started. Oh man, that leap is ginormous.
Yeah, I mean, everything was obviously the gameplay was improved, but the lore was improved, the music,
Yeah,
the character, like, it's just so it's. Oh, I know some people are gonna fight for Street Fighter 2, and I can see it, but I just think it's just a notch below Mega Man for me.
yeah, I'd agree with that.
That, then you have Sonic 2. I mean, you got to throw that out there. Sonic 2 was
Sonic
maybe
Sonic 2. I think a lot of Sega Genesis games you got to throw in there. Sonic 2, Splatterhouse 2. Um, what is it?
Streets of Rage
Streets
2?
of Rage 2, Golden Axe 2. Wow, Genesis had a lot of good sequels.
Yeah. I mean, Streets of Rage 2 is a close one too for me.
Yeah.
That is an amazing game.
Yes. Yes. I've beaten that game plenty times. Oh
Yeah.
man. Even recently I've beaten that game. I've just decided to pop it in on Switch with the what is it? The Sonic Sega collection or whatever it's called. Genesis collection because they have all of the Streets of Rages on there. And every now and then I'll just run through number 2, just beat the game, and I just feel like a nostalgic night has just gone by.
Yeah. I feel like it's a kind of therapy almost. I've beaten it so many times. It's just like I don't
we
know.
should we should play that
Comfort
online one
food.
day.
Yes.
We should definitely run through that one day.
So, that is a strong contender. Now, you mentioned, I think a couple episodes ago, Resident Evil 2. And I said, I'm not a zombie fan, so I've never played a Resident Evil game. But I know people love Resident Evil 2. And I feel
Yeah.
like, does that belong in your opinion? Or,
Yes. Yes. Resident Evil 2 for sure. Yeah. If you want to go PlayStation, wow. Does PlayStation have some good sequels too? Resident Evil 2, Twisted Metal 2.
yeah.
Um
Suikoden 2?
oh, that's a big one.
Yeah.
That is a very big one. Suikoden 2. I mean, if you want to go in terms of technological leaps, you can go Tomb Raider 2. You can go with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tomb Raider 2. I mean, Halo 2, as far as,
Wow, that's another one.
games, that really cemented the series,
I
huge technological leap.
I used to know people who dropped out of high school just to play Halo 2.
Whoa.
Oh
That's
man.
serious.
Yes, Halo 2 was pretty serious when I was in school. Pretty serious.
And then we got some other iconic fighters like Virtua Fighter 2,
Hmm.
which, I love Virtua Fighter, Soul Calibur 2, Mortal Kombat 2.
Tobalt number 2. That's an old one though.
That is yeah, I wasn't going I wasn't thinking Tobal 2.
Uh, well, what's weird is that Tobalt is not a great game, but I will say it's one of those games just because it has Toriyama's artwork, the guy who did the Dragon Ball stuff.
That is true. Yep.
I would say it's more of like a Picasso art piece than, a great game. It's just like that thing you see and you're like, "Oh my god, you have this." I think it's one of those.
All right. Well, Tobal 2 will as an art piece. Then we have we said Suikoden, that's a strong one. I mean,
Yeah,
people.
it's
And
very strong.
I haven't finished it, but I played it. They released it on the PSP. Like they
Yeah,
had so that's where I got into the Suikoden series. Um,
I actually stopped playing it because I got lost. So it's
yeah,
one of
I
it's
mean,
one of those RPGs you need a strategy guide, man.
yeah. Well, there's so many different characters, and
Hmm.
it's so then Shining Force 2. I forgot about it, but I love the Shining Force series.
I recently played it for the first time. Yeah, Shining Force is good.
Yeah, and then you have a lot of people like Mass Effect 2. They thought
Um,
that was the high
you know what?
point of the Mass Effect series.
Personally, I know a lot of people say Mass Effect 2 was the high point. I think I enjoyed Mass Effect 1. I really liked that game. I thought Mass Effect 2 became too much of a shooter. Mass Effect 1 was more of like the shooting was secondary and the story and getting around and exploring was put first. So I'm more of a Mass Effect 1 guy. But
Yeah.
I would agree Mass Effect 2 is up there with a lot of people. So
Um, we have Battlefield 2, which I think was, one of and like the old school, like 2004, 2005-ish Battlefield
mm,
2. A lot of people like that. Portal 2.
Portal 2 is, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. And then I'm going to give you, and I just have to do this. I'm going to give you two oddball picks. Since you started with an oddball pick, I'm going to give you two oddball picks
Okay.
for the Super Famicom.
Uh-oh.
Ganbare Goemon 2.
Yeah.
which is a great platformer. And not all the
Yep.
Goemon games were platforms. You know, a lot of them were kind of like action RPGs, but
Hmm.
this is a sensational platformer from
Yeah,
Konami.
yeah, I've played it. I thought it was good. I can throw one at you too. How
All
about
right.
Go Akimon 2 on the Super Famicom?
Go
That
Akimon. Now,
that is
remind
that
me.
is that is the one. It's a 2D platformer. Kind of the character kind of looks like Trunks from Dragon Ball Z, but he's like a drag. I think he's like a. I can't even explain it. He's like a vampire that runs around
Yes.
with a
Okay.
weird dragon. It's it's so good. It's a great game. Why haven't we gotten that yet?
Yeah. No, now you're describing it, yes, I am recalling this.
Yeah, that one's good.
Um, and then I gotta go with one that's also kind of odd. Virtua Pro Wrestling 2. Now, what Virtual Pro Wrestling was is if you remember the N64 wrestling games that kind of culminated in No Mercy, which
Yeah,
a lot of
I
people
love
really
those games.
love.
Yeah, man. No
So
Mercy,
this,
WrestleMania 2000. Yeah,
yes,
those
all
were the
those. So
tickets.
this was the Japanese only kind of like end to that series.
Oh, okay.
And it was, the best, most refined battle system. It had tons of like created wrestlers, so it had like all the Japanese wrestlers of the time. It had a ton of American wrestlers that did and didn't appear in the previous, WCW, WWE versions of the games.
Mm.
It had a create your own wrestler feature, and then it also allowed you to like do MMA fighting by changing the rules, and it played totally different. It
That's cool.
is a tour de force. Like if you love those games, this is the one that you have to play. And it's like the whatever vision they had for that whole series, the Aki wrestling series, it ended with Virtual Pro Wrestling 2. And
Mm.
it's best expression. I realize they did like Def Jam and
Yeah,
the Ultimate Muscle, like they kind of adapted the system to that, but to me it was never like the original N64.
they're the
So,
one. They're the ones that started that whole light and strong grapples in
yes.
all their games. Yeah, yeah, I'm familiar with it. I
I
love
don't think
hockey.
there's ever been a wrestling control scheme as intuitive as that.
Mm,
So,
they tried to bring it back with the AEW game, but I heard it didn't work as well.
no, it didn't that didn't work for me. I see where they were going. I bought that game for full price. I played it like one weekend just because I heard that they were going back to that formula, and I was like, okay, I could see they kind of were trying to mimic it, but this game sucks.
Oh man,
And
is that bad?
well, yeah, I mean, like the roster was outdated the day it was released. Like some of the guys had already left AEW.
Oh
Like
man.
it felt like, okay, I don't know when it came out, 2002, 2003,
Mhm.
but it was like the AEW 2020 roster.
Oh wow, yeah, they
So it
were
was just
late.
like totally dated. There weren't a ton of modes, and to me the story was kind of goofy, and I just like, well, maybe it'll get better with a few updates, and I never put it in again.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, so those are all the ones that I thought of, and there are a lot of heavy hitters there. Obviously, Ganbare Gomon's not going to win. Virtual Pro Wrestling. What was the first one? You had Too Extreme.
Too extreme was yeah, but I
Yeah,
just picked that because it had the number 2 in it.
and number two. So I mean, so like we have our sentimental picks, we have our oddball picks.
Mhm.
Where do we land? Do we go Mega Man? Do we go Street Fighter? Do we go
Oh,
Streets of Rage?
man. I feel
I
like
mean,
I feel like Streets of Rage is like a total package. Like it has it has great characters, it has great levels, the pacing is awesome, it's fun to play. The soundtrack is fantastic. It's it just checks all the boxes. The thing with Mega Man 2 is Mega Man 2 also does all those things. So it I think it really depends on the person. Like, wait, can we pick them both?
it's got to be one. So we got to have a list. Like, so I
um,
I say I totally agree with you, but I personally, if I had to play both games, much as I think Mega Man 2 is amazing, I would gravitate to Streets of Rage 2.
Um, I think that I will have to agree with you and go with the Streets of Rage 2. Um, Even though like if I had both of them, I'm always picking Streets of Rage first. So yeah, I'm going Streets of Rage.
Yeah. I think that's where it lands. I mean, Streets of Rage, you gotta, yeah, I wonder if like people today, they might play a level or two and be like, oh, this is not, this is whatever. You got to play the whole game. I
So,
think it's like an homage to, the 90s in a way.
yeah. You know
It
what?
just,
I think I have to add a game in there
okay.
just so that my fan base, I wouldn't say fan base, my subscribers, if they are listening to this, if I don't add it, I'm just gonna say Shin Megami Tensei 2, just because. I feel like if I don't say it, I think it would get added, but it's not one of my personal favorites. But
I
I
I
do,
can't believe I skipped that one because I did like those. They released them like on the PSP,
yeah.
or but they re-released them in like two parts,
Um,
if I recall.
Let me think. No. Shin Megami Tensei 1 and 2 didn't have
I'm thinking of
American
Persona.
releases.
Sorry.
Persona did, yes, but Shin Megami Tensei 1 and 2 got fan translations. But I think that those games for their storytelling are legendary enough to add to the list, but personally, and I always say this and a lot of people know that Shin Megami Tensei 2 isn't one of my personal favorites, but I will say that it does have some type of lineage there.
Okay, and what about Persona 2?
Persona 2 is good. No, Persona 2 is great. I'm thinking of 1. I'm sorry. Persona 2 is good. The problem is that um the one we got on PlayStation 1, which is Eternal Punishment, is actually the second story because that game is actually split into two parts. We never got the first story until the PSP years later.
That's the one I played. Yeah.
Um yeah, they're good. They're good games. I mean, if you want a headache and you want to play a very hard RPG.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed the PSP release that they did, but I don't like it better than Streets of Rage 2.
I don't like it better than Streets of Rage 2 either.
But you got your bases covered, so
Yeah,
your
yeah, we're
subscribers won't rebel.
yeah, they won't
You got to get
rebel.
it on the list.
Yep, got to get it on there.
And I bet you, I mean, just spent the last hour going through games with 2 in the title. I bet you we missed something. Like someone's going to put something in a comment and be like, "How could you guys forget this?"
So and so. Clock Tower.
Clock Tower. This thing maybe Titanfall 2. Again,
Mm,
newer game, but very, very
yeah,
good. Um,
yeah,
what
I
else?
do. I think you're right. I feel like we're forgetting something, like something major too. What is it? Is it Star Fox 2?
Yeah, yeah. Star Fox.
Well, we didn't get Star Fox 2 until decades later. Donkey Kong Country 2?
Donkey Kong Country 2, Mega Man X2, right? That was
Yeah, yeah. X series is okay. It's all right.
Donkey Kong
It's,
Country 2. See, I sort of always preferred the first, but that might be because I'm old and I just have the memories of the first one. Yeah, Donkey Kong
Parasite
Country,
Eve 2?
Parasite Eve 2,
It's a good one. Well,
good.
it's okay. I don't prefer it over Parasite Eve 1. I'm a Parasite Eve 1 guy.
Yeah,
Uh
man, what else?
Man, there's so many. We're not gonna get them all.
Like I think we got all the heavy hitters.
Yes. Yes. I feel like we got the heavy hitters, yeah. I'm thinking about Gradius too. It's
Oh yeah, I
another
mean, there's all sorts of shmups that
Oh my
we
god.
have in Raiden
We
2,
will
and
be here all day.
yeah. So, but again, I think those are niche enough where they're not in the argument for the greatest, most influential game with 2 in the title of all time.
Right.
So I'm kind of happy to crown Streets of Rage.
I feel like this is the second time we crowned it. I feel like we crowned it in another episode, in another video before.
Yeah, well,
Because
but
Streets
you
of Rage
know,
2 comes up a lot in our discussions.
well, I think that's just proof that it could be the greatest sequel.
You think Streets of Rage 2 is the greatest sequel of all time?
I mean, where we're putting it here, right? This
That
is,
that that sounds like
I
a good
mean,
discussion to have on another episode. Is greatest sequels of all time.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting here because right by picking the best game with two in the title, we're essentially picking the greatest sequel of all time.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, you could argue like with the Street Fighter that it was such a jump that as a sequel, it is the greatest sequel. But I don't know. Streets of Rage 2, think about it. Streets of Rage 1, would you rather go back to that? No. Would you rather play Streets of Rage 3
Okay. See, all
or
right.
4?
So this is the thing with me. Um, I'm one of those rare individuals that if you give me Streets of Rage 1 or 2, I'm always gonna pick 1 over 2.
Really?
And yeah, and the thing is that I don't think that Streets of Rage 1 is a better game than 2, but I have more nostalgia with Streets of Rage 1 because I spent a lot of time playing that one because it was the first one I got, and I know a lot of people love Streets of Rage 2's music, but I prefer 1's music. It's so weird. It's a nostalgia thing for me. But I do feel like Streets of Rage 2 is the better one out of the two, but I much rather play 1. I know it's
Okay.
weird. I'm a weirdo. Okay, just let me
Well,
have
hey,
this.
hey, I wouldn't argue that we all have our nostalgic picks, right? With games that
Yeah.
just matter to us.
Hmm.
Uh, but like I think with Streets of Rage 2, I think most people would say it's a
It's
clear upgrade over
it's
one.
yeah, definitely.
And the three was, I
Three,
don't know, something
three,
was just off with three.
three felt like a cash grab with worse music.
Yes, that was a big part of it. The music was
The
a
mu-
major downgrade.
yeah, it was. Well, I mean, um, Yuzo said that he was being experimental with the soundtrack. That's why he made it like that. So, hey,
Well, and
Yuzo Koshiro, I still like you for 1 and 2, and whatever music you did on number 4. But man, 3, oh no, that was not a good soundtrack. I still
it
bought
was
it on
a.
vinyl though.
I would expect nothing less.
Yeah, I
But
still bought it on vinyl, and I never listened to it.
I feel like this is the perfect time to do an ad for 1-800. They'll have 1-800 gambler, like one eight
Yeah.
hundred collector,
Oh wow.
where start the hotline because
Yeah. If you need to
it's
talk, if you need to
it's
talk to somebody and get over those collecting humps.
yeah, you can hear our testimonials about January and February because
Oh man.
it's been a rough one. We'll get into that on our next
Yeah.
real episode. So
Yeah. Yeah. My wallet is crying
yeah, well there you have it, folks. Streets of Rage 2, our pick for the greatest game with two in the title.
again.